folks. Welcome to Out of My Mind, VR painting with yours truly. That's me, Gary. And I decided to start a video series here just to kind of show you how I put these paintings together, these virtual reality paintings that I do. I'm not one of those people that normally goes into something without a little bit of planning. So I've taken time beforehand to come up with a concept. As you can see here, I'm calling this the creek path, or the path to the creek, something like that. And this is going to be like in the foreground, we're going to have an old, maybe some type of old barbed wire fence or something falling down. I want a little sign there saying something. I'm not sure yet. But, a rocky path going down to a creek that's in the distance back here, with a bunch of trees and woods, and we're going for more of an impressionistic, abstract type of image here. I'm basing it on some inspiration here from Monet. I mean, he's always been one of my heroes, one of the artists I've always looked up to, mainly for his use of bold colors and just definitely a distinctive style to his work. I've always been very impressed by his work. So I'm going to use that as an inspiration. We're going to just try to have some fun, and we're going to keep it loose and use some color and just have a little fun. But you can see, if you look closely, I start a lot of times with a geometric approach. You can see the orange lines that are very faint there. I use the practice of threes. I use angles to help give it some dimension, and especially in the natural world, when you're painting something that's in nature, very rarely are there any straight angles or parallel angles. Usually things are a little off. So this is the inspiration. This is the general sketch of what we're going to go for. So I'm going to set it to the side. And we're going to just start adding in a little bit of color. Now, what I'm going to do here, this painting is going to be mainly built to be viewed from this direction here, up that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our idea as just a general guide for what we want to do within the frame. So we're gonna just play with this a little bit. I'm gonna get a little bit lighter color here, just to see what we're doing. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get there's a draft brush now. I want to give a big shout out to the folks at IcosaGallery. They are one of the first ones to come up with a open source version of the tilt brush software, and I'm really enjoying it. They've added a bunch of new brushes here, and they've added some new features, and I'm really liking what they've done. So now also, this is a drafting brush. I'm going to use it to kind of get my guidelines of how I want to lay this out, and then I can actually turn them off in a menu up here, which is really helpful. So we're going to play with this. We're going to see, we're going to want a little bit of a foreground. Let's just try to, let's say that's one fence post, and we're going to do one over here like this. And oh, I got the straight line on. Okay, we're going to kind of decide where we're going to fit in. I'm figuring we're going to have some rock. save this one more time just to be safe. I learned a long time ago to save my work often. All right, we're going to take this and we're going to get some of our colors in here in the color palette. So we've already got one of these in our color palette here. I got a couple from when I was doing the sky and the backdrop. But let's we're going to get these colors in our palette. Add that in there. I'm going to use shortcut. All right. So now that we have our colors in our palette, let me get this fellow moved out of the way. We're going to start filling in the terrain a little bit and helping flesh it out here. Okay, so we're going to start with the mid-range color that I've got. We're going to start with it, and then we're going to come back with the darker and the lighter shades. And this is just to give us something to work with. We're not going to get to, this is going to be beyond the creek. This is something that's not going to be so important that we got to stress about. And looking at my color here, it looks like I've got the light a little too bright. So let me adjust the lights real quick. That's a little better. All right. So let's get some more of this in here. I'm going to go with a little wider brush so we can fill in behind. And that's a good thing about working in a three-dimensional painting space like this is, even though I don't actually have palettes, I'm sorry, even though I don't actually have layers, and that's a feature that I've mentioned I'd love for them to add. But even though I don't have layers to work from, I can still use the dimension to my advantage. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of feeling out where things are going to be, and I'm using the actual volume of the brush stroke to help create this landscape. And you can see it filling in pretty good as I'm going here. And it just, it's just a matter of getting your own feel for it. I tend to move my hand in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I'll move it more jerky and quickly to get like this here, to get a real rough look. Sometimes I'll kind of use the pressure of the tip and kind of make more subtle strokes. But it's a matter. That's one of the beautiful things about something like this, where you're actually using your hands a lot. Is there is a element of expression in what you're doing that's hard to get on something that's completely computer generated. I do my share of computer generated art, and it's almost like it loses a little bit of soul to me. And that's just a personal opinion. I know a lot of graphic artists that are awesome at what they do. I've worked with a lot over the years, my 30 plus years, and I have nothing against them. It's a different talent, is all I'm saying. It's a different talent than what I aspire to. Me, I'm doing my best to try to figure out how to blend technology and just more of an old school approach. When Tilt Brush came around, to me it was a godsend, because it was a new way for me to blend the two, especially just like you're seeing here. You can see every stroke that I've put in there. But see, we're starting to have an environment, we're starting to have a terrain to work from, and we're going to go, let me save that, we're going to go to darker color. And let's see how that plays in here. And now you see I'm going to jerk it a little bit because I want the darker areas to not be so perfect. You know, like I was saying, things in nature aren't really perfect. And so when you're doing something like this, it's good to kind of have that loose feel, that organic feel, I guess you'd say. Again, pun intended, I reckon. But you know, you play with the color and let the color kind of work its own magic. Um, of course, you got to kind of have an eye for things, and it takes practice just like anything else. But it's not something that can't be learned. Talent is something that can't be learned, but a skill, that's different. Skill is something that can be taught and you can attain somehow. Talent is the natural part that is hard to measure, I guess you'd say. Let's say that's looking good. That's coming together. We're gonna put some darker areas on the hills back here, and you can see how the way I've got the lighting, you can see the dimension of those strokes. You can see them as I'm adding them in here. You can see the dimension, how they work together, how they're really, even though it's a flat brush stroke, you know, if I draw it this way, you don't see very much. But if I turn the art around, you see it. See it, it's almost like a flat stroke, but it just hangs in the air like that. Well, I do my best to kind of take advantage of that, those shadows and things that are happening with the lighting I got here. And this is just the way I chose to do the lighting, because I like for my stuff to have some sense of body to it. But you can change the lighting where there aren't any shadows. I've done some paintings like that, and sometimes I still go that route, especially if I'm wanting something that's bolder. And more in your face, more aggressive, I guess you'd say. But yeah, man, you just kind of play with it. You add the color and say, where would it be darker? Where would it be lighter? It's probably going to be darker down here by where the creek is, because it's going to be more lush and it's going to be more moisture, and everything's going to be happier through there. So where the creek is probably going to be a lot more darker areas. And I haven't even got to highlights yet, and that's really going to make a difference. And I'm worried that that's too much of a highlight. Let's get rid of that, and let's go with an even darker shade of what we were working on. That looks good. Let's test that, and we'll see how that looks. I'm going to go with a little bit smaller brush, because we're not going to use it as much. Oh, I like that. That really adds some depth to it. And you see I'm kind of jerking my hand around like that. That's it's almost like if you've ever used pastels or something of that nature. Pastels are a lot of cross hatching and a lot of lines and a lot of little jiggles and little wiggles of your fingers and your hand, and so it's kind of the same premise what I'm doing here. It's kind of it keeps it from being too perfect. And like I said, I don't think in something like this, especially with the approach we're taking to this piece, I don't think we're going for perfection. I think we're going more for, well, impression, I guess you could say. All right, this is coming together nice. I like the dark, and see, this is about to become really fun, because this is the starting point. I always kind of start with where my terrain is and where things are going to be, so that I have a place for everything. This is almost me planning things out, I guess you would say. I need to have a place where the path is. I need to have a place where the trees are. I need to have a place, just to kind of keep it, I don't know, maybe that's the part of me that's trying to stay organized. A lot of me is disorganized, but I guess in some ways my mind still tries to maintain order. I guess. Don't know. But yeah, this is looking good. Okay, and this is just the earth tones. We haven't even got into any color, or rocks, and that's probably the next thing we should do is probably build it up, probably go on to the rocks. Because, rocks are going to have a different hue, a different tone than a lot of the surrounding ground. Not all the time, but the ones that we're doing here, it depends on what you're going for. I'm really being more inspired in this by where I'm living now, in Mountain View, and just how pretty it is, and that's kind of the inspiration for this as well. Okay, so we're doing good now. While we're thinking here, one thing we need to determine here is what time of day. How are we going to do the sky? What kind of colors are we going to put back there? So I'm going to grab a few colors off our color palette here. Let's go with that blue. Go with that blue. And we'll just use some derivatives of a couple colors there. All right, so let's look at what we're looking at. So I'm gonna go with a different brush. I'm not gonna do the charcoal. Let's go with the bristle. Okay. So that color looks pretty bright, don't it? That's a pretty bright looking color. We're gonna dull it down. Let's go here. That looks good. All right, so we're gonna start adding it now. We're talking blue sky, middle of the day. I say blue, it's gonna be a grayish blue probably, but middle of the day. So you're still gonna have a little bit lighter area where your horizon is than what's above it. So we're gonna start just adding in some color here. We're gonna go back and layer in some more, but this is just a beginning of our sky, and you can see how I'm kind of jerking my hand around, just jerking it around as I'm painting. And I'm gonna go up a little bit higher here. You can see some of the you can see the movement. All right, and that's a good space to begin. Let's go a little bit lighter. Let's get up in there, and we'll start blending that in. You can see it starting to help bring that kind of impressionistic stroke, behind stroke or beside stroke effect that a lot of impressionistic painters, like Monet, one of my heroes, of course. All right, now that's a beginning. Okay. think that's something that we all learn over time, though. And see, I like the muted colors. I like how that's come together. It's going to be nice as you travel through the 2 fence posts, down the path to the creek with the trees. It's going to be great. All right, so we're going to work on a little bit. Let's save that. We're going to work on a little bit of trees. I'm going to try not to go too dark on it. We're going to see how the charcoal brush does with the trees and fence posts. Let's start with the fence post. Let's see. Alright, that's not bad. Not for a starting point. I can always lighten up different areas. But see, I'm just kind of letting it go, not overdoing it. I almost want to add another fence post back here. I think I'll up there. That way, at least when you're going through it, your eye catches that fence post. I might as well add one over here on this side too. Oh, that's cool. And that way, as you come in, your peripheral doesn't lose that. Okay, so looking at our concept sketch, let's grab it real quick. You can see how I've got trees kind of coming up from the rocks this way. And then they're along the side of the path over here to try to help, almost like guardrails on a racetrack. They kind of help you know to go this way. I'm going to use the trees kind of the same way. I'm going to use them to kind of lead you down the path. So, all right, so here we go. So we got our fence posts, and we're going to start laying in some trees. I'm going to put that up there so I can reference it a little bit about how we're going to do the trees. Okay, so we're going to start just laying in some things here. So let's see. I'm going to bring something up here. Oop. Like that. Out of frame. I'm going to start having fun with it. You know, none of this is supposed to be perfect, man. right, well, isn't that looking cool? All right, we're gonna save that. All right, I think that is a good starting point. Now, I'm gonna save that color. I like that color. Now we're gonna start playing with some tree colors. We're gonna start playing with some foliage, and we're gonna have a little fun with it. I'm gonna do the coarse bristles, and we're just gonna play with it. All right, and let's see. We're wanting it to be, you know, there's this path. You know, we're wanting to act as if there's, you know, there's some greenery. We don't want it to be all rocky and no green. That would just look, I don't know, almost depressing. We're gonna put a little green around the posts here, a little bit up in the corner. And, you know, once again, we're trying to give the impression that there's some bushes and some brush and different things around here, that the rocks aren't choking out all the life, you know, because that ain't really what they do. They give stability. And yeah, see, you know, I'm liking that. We're going to leave this big rock here. We want it to be exposed, and then the rocks for the path. So I might add a little bit here, like it's grass on the path, maybe. Probably go in with a brown or something to give the impression of some dirt, but I don't know. It may not be. It might just all be rocks. So let's add a little bit in here. Oh, there we go. We're going to add it behind, like I was saying with the dimension, adding it behind to give a sense, you know. And then back here, we're going to go a bit bigger, like that right there, and just keep it all loose. What's out of the frame, out of the important parts. And then we'll get a little bit in there like that. Oh yeah. sometimes when I'm doing paintings like this, sometimes when I'm creating something like this, and I'm working on it, and I'm in the middle of it like this, and I'm trying my best to imagine, the colors and how it all lays out. Sometimes I can almost hear sounds or remember smells or places that I've been long ago, but places that I've been, and those things stick with you, especially on an impressionable 12, 14-year-old that hasn't ever traveled very far outside of Mississippi. Those things make a big impression on a little old country boy. Now see, ain't that coming together nice? I really like that. That's just looking great. Yep, that's looking great. All right. And so, okay, so this is where we're going. We're going to add a little bit more here because I don't want it to be too obvious what happens over here or over here. I don't want it to be so obvious. I want it to be a little bit more sketchy because once again, we're drawing the eye in here. All right, so we're starting to have our dimension here. We're starting to have and this is where the hills are back here. And the hills are getting lost a little bit, but I know how I might do that. Anyway, it's looking pretty good. Now we're going to play with the color a little bit. Let's save that green, and then we're going to go with a little bit darker and dimmer. I say that's looking nice. We're starting to add some dimension and some color. It's starting to look like a painting, isn't it? And once we get this done, I can already tell. Once we kind of get to a point, I'm going to have to address the sky further up. It's not going up enough. But look at this painting we've created. This is great. And what we're fixing to do now, actually, I'm going to add a little bit more dark, a little bit more depth. There we go. I see a lot of times with stone or things like that. It's one thing I liked about Monet. He had a way of using colors you wouldn't normally think of using in his works, especially his landscape, his landscape stuff. And it just amazed me how he. Now we're going to go back in and define things with some darker areas. Right now I'm just adding some color, just to give a hint that, even back here in the shadow, I can add some color and it'll give the impression that it's rock peeking through the foliage. And see, it's starting to come together. We're going to add a little bit of purple in there, and it's going to be a staple for the rocks. So we're going to use it here, there, and yonder on a lot of rocks. Add a little bit back off in here. And see, once again, I'm able to put this stroke in and out of another stroke and help get that blending effect. I mean, that's one of the cool things about this three-dimensional art is I can get blends and things to happen by manipulating the strokes rather than, doing it by hand with a brush. I mean, I've done that. I love painting, by the way. Traditional painting. I'm more of an acrylic guy. I love traditional painting. And one of the things that I missed in the original version of Tilt Brush was that there just wasn't much of a way for you to blend colors. And I so much wanted to blend colors. And, so I had to figure out my own ways of doing it. That's one reason why I kind of migrated towards the bristle brush, is because of the shape of that brush. I could make it weave and fold into itself a little to kind of get that impression. I mean, I still struggle with it, but you see what I'm talking about, though. You can see what I'm working on. You can see what I'm building here as I move my brush in and out of it. I'm able to make more or less of that color peek through depending on how I move in and out of the strokes that are already there. So in that aspect, it comes down to, understanding the concept. It's a concept. Understanding the concept. Ooh, wait, is that looking pretty? That's just looking great. I'm loving it. All right. Kind of using it to gauge how long I can edit the video down to, and you know, all that stuff. So, all right, so we're starting to get down here where there's much more defined areas in between the rocks. So we're just adding a little bit of color there. You know, there's got to be some rocks right in here, so we're gonna give them a little something something. All right, a little bit of. So we're not gonna worry so much about defining this every rock in the creek kind of thing. I'm going more for, you know, impression, of course. So I'm not going to go too crazy with this color because we're still going to add some water there in the creek. But the depth that it's starting to give us is nice. I am going to put a little bit of some strokes on the fence post. You know, it needs a little bit of character. Especially if I end up, I might add that sign to it. I don't know. I had an idea of adding a sign on it, and I don't know. Just not sure right now. You know, once again, it's one of those things that it ain't set in stone. If I decide to do it, I'll do it. If I don't, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Look at that. Now, that ain't that pretty. Now, we're going to use a darker. We're going to go in here and we're going to act like we're doing the barbed wire fencing, and we're just going to say it comes in here. Oh, a little too small. Let's go a little bigger. No, too much. That's small. All right, we're going to say it comes in from there, there. And then we're going. Get there, and I'm purposely doing it that way just to show a little bit of dimension. And I know a lot of barbed wire fences have 3 wires. I'm just doing 2 just cause. But I mean, just being able to do things like this, like I'm able to paint this in here, and in a way it's painted, and in a way it's sculpted, because there is dimension. You see, you don't see that until you get right up close to it. And we're going to act like this line is starting going around. And this one's, yeah, like that. All right, looking good. Looking good. Now, let's go in here. We're going to figure out where we're going to determine our make an adjustment here to my sketch. There we go. It's running a little better now. All right, so we're going to decide where the water is going to come from. So let's do that. You know, the water would be reflecting the sky somewhat, but the trees somewhat as well. So we're going to go kind of to a blue-green, and then we're going to change it to something that's duller. Right in there. Let's try that with our water first. You know, we're going to just imagine where this is going to come through. And it's going to be like that right there. And you know, it'd probably come around this boulder here and then merge back. So we're going to do that. We're just going to work it in. We're just going to kind of imagine where the water will flow and add some strokes in there like that. Because we're not really going for realism once again. We're going for the impression. Right? Going for the impression of that creek, the impression of the rocks. You know, so it's... Let's get a little bit lighter color. Right here where it's probably hitting the sun some. All right. Very nice. And if you look at it, we've got it almost in the principle of threes. I've got this foreground kind of stopping about a third of the way up. I've got that back, you know, the tree line in the background kind of stopping about a third of the way down. I've got the path kind of going a third of the way to this side of the painting, the path. And then you've got the boulder and everything. The path goes around. So, you know, it's giving it that sense of dimension. It doesn't feel too symmetrical. It's coming out really nice. So now, this is where we're going to have some fun. We're going to add some, let me save that. We're going to add some sun rays. And I usually do them with a soft highlighter and a straight edge. And I need to decide what color to do the sun rays. Now, if we just do them something like this that doesn't have a whole lot of pigment, a lot of times it do fine, but I want them to be subtle. people. I'm gonna say that's the finished product. What you think of that? We're gonna throw a frame on it. Okay, folks, I have added the border, as you can see. Added the border. You know, it kind of helps you want to move into it. Added the border, and kind of touched up a couple things. Got my signature on there. And we're going to call this one done. We're going to call this one Creek Path. And I'm going to save this, and I'm going to make a film of it, and I'll add it to the end of this video or do a separate one. But anyway, reach out to me if you have any questions about what I do or how I do these things, or I'm pretty open to talking to just about anybody. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to do more of these. So let me know if you like it. Let me know if you want to see more. Take it easy, man.